All right, we're ready for Coach.
All right, we're going to start with Michael Grady with Yes Network.
Hey, Coach. First thing, just your reaction, and I'm sure that the wide range of emotions that you had as the deal was made and the journey that you're looking at moving forward with James and the squad.
Yeah, we're excited. We obviously got one of the premier players in the world, so it's always tough to say goodbye to guys that you develop a relationship with, you feel strongly about. But going forward, we got very, very unique talent, incredible firepower. You could go down the line and talk about all the things he does with the basketball and brings to a team. So we're thrilled to have James and give our team a boost, but also obviously give us a lot more talent.
Greg Logan, Newsday.
Steve, the past 8 years at Houston, James might have had one superstar with him, and sometimes he was alone, so he's used to totally dominating the ball. So have you had a conversation with him about what type of sacrifices he might have to make, in that pairing with KD and Kyrie?
Yeah, it's going to be an adjustment for him. He's played the same role for many years now, same way, the same style. So we hope to emulate that in some ways, but in other ways, he's going to have to adapt to playing with other guys, namely Kevin and Kai, and that I think the newness of that, but also the adjustment of how do we make them all make each other better and fit together is something that I think he's incredibly excited about. He realizes he's in a fortunate opportunity with to be able to play with those guys, and those guys feel the same way about him. So I think everyone's motives are on track and in the same vein and ready to figure this thing out as we go here.
Bruce Beck, NBC New York.
Steve, how do expectations change, and do you feel more pressure to win a championship this year?
Yeah, I mean, we want to win a championship for sure. That's why we made the deal. That's what we're setting out to do. Having said that, we're so far from that right now. So our expectations is to grow every day, to get better, to figure out who we are, what we are, how we fit together, and where we can improve. And so it's a process, and you have to earn the right to play for a championship through the regular season and playoffs. And so those steps are still in front of us before we can say, we're a championship team. We're not a team that's running it back, that's been to the finals or conference finals even. We're a brand new entity that has to figure it out, but that is the end goal. And if we take the necessary steps and continue to improve and work towards that and commit to that process, why not? We have a great opportunity here with the players we have.
Brian Lewis, New York Post.
Hey, Steve, I'm curious. Following up, I guess, a little bit on Greg's question. One, James isn't the only one, I guess, that will have to make significant sacrifices. Have you had that same conversation also with KD and Kyrie, because all of them are going to be shooting less than they're accustomed to, being on the ball less than they're accustomed to? And secondly, assuming everybody passes their physicals, do you expect James to be able to play against Orlando?
Pending physicals, I think he could play tomorrow. And as far as the roles and the adaptation, they realize that this is a great opportunity. So they're not going to be, having the same volume that they're used to, but I think they're all excited by the opportunity to play with other great players and to figure it out, and realizing that this gives them a chance to form an incredible team. So that the prospect of that reality is something that we're all working towards, and I think those guys are really embracing.
Malika Andrews, ESPN.
Hey, Steve, two for you. If Kyrie continues to test negative, it's been, the league has said that he would be eligible to play tomorrow. If James Harden passes his physicals, both would be eligible to play tomorrow. What's the blueprint for that, given the fact that you haven't had practice time with either of them? And will James Harden start immediately?
Whenever James is ready, he will start immediately. I have no update on Kyrie timetable, so I couldn't answer that one. But yeah, we have to go through all the protocols and physicals and all the different sections of this. First of all, we have the physicals on the one side, and then we have the COVID protocols. So I don't have an update on Kai, but whenever they're both healthy and ready to go, they will be in the starting lineup.
So you haven't seen the league's update on Kyrie Irving that he will be eligible to end his quarantine and to rejoin the team activities tomorrow?
I have seen that, but I'm just saying I don't have an update on when he'll be back. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Christian Winfield, New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach. Just curious if you think that you might have to tinker with your offense, be it philosophies or sets that you're going to have to incorporate or plan to incorporate in the future now that you have another superstar that you're folding into the offense instead of, trying to fill some of those holes with role players.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to continually tinker, to use your word. We're going to have to assess and refine and adapt as we go here. This is a new group of guys learning to play together for the first time, really before James' trade. So we're still in that boat where we have talent, but we have to form this thing and realize how they can be effective together and how efficient we can get their performances to be while playing together. So that will take time, and that hopefully isn't too painful, but there could be moments where it does take some tough stretches to figure that out, but that's fine. I think that makes you tougher, stronger. I think you get a deeper understanding when you go through some difficult times. So we would embrace anything that this challenge presents so that it makes us better in the end.
Otis Livingston, CBS New York.
Hey, Coach, as a Hall of Fame player, I know you saw a lot of ups and downs, trade rumors that came true, some that didn't, and some wild stuff behind the scenes. How is it affecting you now as a first-time head coach, the events of the past couple weeks?
I generally try to embrace it. I think, I guess you could say for a new coach, a lot's been thrown at us, but that's, I think, an opportunity. Whenever you are facing different scenarios and these unique kind of components of this season, it's an opportunity to learn, grow, and challenge your beliefs and improve at everything you do. So I've embraced it, and I'm right up for the challenge and just trying to figure it out and chip away every day.
Alex Schiffer, The Athletic.
Hey, Steve. Christian kind of stole my first question. So you've talked about this season after games about kind of building toward things and a constant evaluation process. How do you kind of evaluate where you guys are at now, given that you just lost half the roster? That's been a huge piece for you guys the first 12 games.
Well, there is an element of this where we are starting over. So we start to assess again and figure out who we are. But I wouldn't say that everything is lost, because we do have, most of the team staying behind and to build from. So we have that sample size and those data points of how they work and how they work together and how they connect. So, it is starting over in the big picture, but we still, I think, learned a lot from the first stretch of the season.
Brian Mahoney, Associated Press.
Hey, Steve, obviously James kind of played as a point guard in Houston, but people don't look at him that way like they did at you as a sort of natural point guard. What kind of role do you expect him to play in Brooklyn, where you already obviously have Kyrie, but he's shown he can kind of do either or?
Yeah, I think the game's becoming more and more positionless. You don't have to define the roles so clearly. Fortunately for us, I think James is a point guard essentially, but he has the size to play in multiple positions. If you want to go the positional and traditional route, Kyrie will be a point guard. He also is very capable of playing off the ball. So, I think there's a lot of interchangeability between the players, and in the way the game's going, and the modern game is very interchangeable and positionless as it is. So, it's really about how much these guys want to sacrifice to become an efficient unit. And if they're willing to do that, it doesn't really matter who brings the ball up the court and what you label it. It's about how they play together and how willing they are to work and make each other better.
David Aldridge, The Athletic.
Hey, Steve. Two things. Number one, everyone has kind of looked at how's this going to work offensively. How's this going to work defensively?
Yeah, I think, offensively is going to be a challenge just to figure out how these parts fit. It's a great problem to have because they're all extremely talented offensive players. I think defensively, they also are very capable. The big three are capable defenders. They're intelligent and experienced players. So while we have to go down this path and figure out what the best way to defend is with this group, I do think that there's more potential than maybe people assess from the outside on paper.
And as part of that, I mean, is a lineup with Katie at the 5 a possibility given his rim protection ability that he's displayed over the past few years?
I think it's a possibility to get there. I'd love to see it. I think we need to let Kevin kind of still find his footing as far as, I think we overlook how soon this is for Kevin and that he needs to continually get more comfortable at offense, but also defense. You play pickup games for 9-10 months. No one's scheming you, no one's double teaming you, no one's trying to put pressure on you. It's basically glorified one-on-one. And so he's still adapting offensively to the schemes and the timing and the pressure and all those things that you just can't emulate until you play NBA basketball games. And I think he's even more so adapting to the defense because, pickup games, you're not in a scheme, you're not in a communicative environment. So, but do I see Kevin potentially playing some 5? Absolutely. But that's a night-to-night thing. That's a down-the-road thing, I think. I think we have to be patient with him and allow him to kind of find his feet again.
Jen Williams, Fox 5.
Sorry, Coach. Can you hear me?
I got you.
Sorry about that. So you called them the big 3 yourself, and you said offensively, defensively, you're not worried about how they'll gel. How are you going to, how do you expect chemistry to go with this team?
Well, I lean back on the opportunity here. I think these guys recognize that to win, you can't do it alone, and that to get to play with other players of this caliber is an incredibly fortunate opportunity. So I think they are grateful and looking to find a way to gel and make each other better.
Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports.
Hey, Steve, I'm just curious if there's any trepidation about bringing James in, given how things played out in Houston with, some of the things his teammates said over the past week or so with how he comported himself. And secondly, these are 3 unique personalities. What do you see your role in as far as the off-court chemistry and how those 3 unique personalities sort of affect themselves within the team?
The answer to the first question is I think James carried that team for many years and gave them everything he had. So since he asked for a trade, I think that's a sample size that is fairly irrelevant as far as judging him. So, and then as far as the personalities, look, these guys, they want to win. If they really want to win, they'll find a way to play together. And, I think our role as coaches is to create an environment that is, really, really enjoyable, challenging, competitive, but fun. And if you can put those elements in the mix and make those things the way it looks and feels every day, I don't think that the personalities are as big of a challenge.
Taylor Rooks, Bleacher Report.
Hey, so you have touched on this a bit, but if you could pinpoint one specific thing, what do you anticipate being the biggest challenge with coaching these 3 stars? And is there anything that you draw from, experience from your career that will help you overcome that challenge?
I think it's about finding that the best way for them to gel and be efficient together. So, they're all going to take a slightly less volume approach to playing now. And, there's still plenty of shots to go around. There's still plenty of opportunities to make plays to go around, but it's not going to be in the same format that it was before where they were, largely the #1 focal point. It's going to be much more spread between the 3 of them. And they also have to make their other teammates better, and they will do that. And I think that, having played on teams with other talented players, you can see the pitfalls, you can see the difficulties, and you can lean on those experiences. And I think part of that is just starting out with really stripping down what are our motives here together. Like, what are we here for? What do we want to accomplish? And once we're on the same page there, which I believe we are, you can start building and assessing how this is going to work and making it a process. It's not something that has to look perfect next week. It's something that we have to begin and have a vision towards where we're going. And then we continually try to improve upon it every day.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
You got it. Thanks, everybody.
Obviously, the coaching staff, the front office, top to bottom, The welcome has been amazing, so it's a fresh start for me to go out there and ultimately have a chance to compete at a title.
Bruce Beck, NBC New York.
Hey, James, what's your message to Nets fans on what kind of player and what kind of teammate they're getting?
An elite player, an elite teammate, an elite leader, and just a guy that's willing to do whatever it takes to rack up as many wins as we can. Sacrifice.
Brian Lewis, New York Post.
Hey, James. Welcome. Following up on that, I mean, you've proven yourself to be an elite player, and KD's an elite player, Kyrie's an elite player. All you guys have had the ball in your hands and been asked to make big shots. I'm curious how the three of you make sure that you guys come together and keep the main thing, and find a way to gel for the greater good.
Chemistry, sacrifice, and like you said, we're all elite, so depending on the game, depending on, what's going on throughout the course of the game, that's going to determine who gets the ball and who makes the plays. We're all unselfish. We're all willing passers, and we play basketball the right way, and that's all that matters.
Otis Livingston, CBS New York.
Hey, James, welcome to Brooklyn. From your post-game comments after the Lakers lost to what your teammates were saying about you as far as being disrespectful, and also you being held out of practice until a trade was made, it got pretty ugly at the end of your tenure in Houston. Is there any part of you that regrets the way that it ended?
I wasn't disrespectful to anyone. Those guys had just got there, Houston. I've been there for a very long time. I've been through all the ups and downs, with that organization. And I wasn't disrespectful towards anyone. I just made a comment, that the team as a whole wasn't good enough to compete for a title. And, at the stage of my career, right where I am now, that's what I would love, and so I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to anybody, especially not to the organization. And like I said, just I'm excited to be here in Brooklyn, and excited for a new start.
But do you regret the way it ended, though? I mean, it's a place that you loved and you had so many highlights.
Yeah, I regret because I'm not the type of guy to, I don't need the attention, especially the negative energy, the negative attention. Like, I've never been that guy. So there were some things I felt like out of my character, but the ultimate goal was to get somewhere, where I can compete. And here I am in Brooklyn. I have nothing but love and respect for that organization, that city, and everything that they've done for me and my family. Much respect.
Malika Andrews, ESPN.
Hi, James. Welcome. Sean Marks said yesterday that in large part because you are pretty much going to be thrown into the fire here. Brooklyn has a schedule where they don't practice a whole lot. He's hoping that you will lean a lot on your previous relationship with Kevin Durant. What communication had you had with him in the days leading up to this? And how much do you think that that's going to play a piece, that previous relationship with both him and Jeff Green?
That's a pretty special piece to lean on. I think me just loving the game of basketball and having so much talent around me makes it easier. Obviously having conversation with Steve and Mike and the entire coaching staff, and then even the players today, I'm more confident because the things that they do offensively and defensively are similar to what I've been used to in Houston. So just going out there and being me, and making the game easier for obviously Kevin and when Kai comes back, but our bigs, our shooters, and just being myself. And that's the most important thing.
Greg Logan, Newsday.
Hi, James. Welcome to Brooklyn. I'd just like to drill down a little bit on your thought process, even before training camp, making the decision to ask for the trade from the Rockets to the Nets. How did you arrive at that? And was there conversation between you and KD and Kyrie when you guys worked out in Los Angeles prior to the season? How far back does this go?
As far as with Houston, Just wanted to, after the bubble, after that loss, just wanted to reevaluate my career and the team and the direction that the organization was going. And then you look from top to bottom, from the general manager leaving to Mike D'Antoni leaving, to reevaluating our personnel and see if we had enough to compete with the best teams in this league. And as time went on and free agency and things like that started to go on, it was like, well, I felt like we didn't have a chance, and so, as much as I love the city of Houston, love being there, I think at the point in my career, it's not about money, it's not about anything else but having a chance at reaching the ultimate goal is to winning at the highest level, so that's where that came into play. Um, it didn't go as smooth as I would loved it to go, but I think both sides are happy.
Christian Winfield, New York Daily News.
Hey, James. First and foremost, welcome to Brooklyn.
Thank you.
I guess you would know better than any of us in this room that, winning a championship is not easy, right? There's 30 teams, of those 30, maybe 5 or 6 have real chances to win it. You've
Correct.
been part of those 5 or 6 for God knows how long since you've been in Houston. You've had multiple runs deep. You've had it with different players from Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Melo, Dwight. I'm just curious as to what gives you the confidence that this time around will be different and that this group can get it done.
Obviously you got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the team. And then surrounded by those guys, you have really good pieces in DeAndre, Jeff, shooters, and Joe, Landry. And you just look at this entire roster and it's built for any style of basketball you want. And then the coaching staff who, knows the game of basketball at a high level. You just add that all together and it's like, that's a legit chance right there. It was a no-brainer for me.
Rachel Nichols, ESPN.
Hey, James. Obviously, so many great players go without winning a title. There's guys in the Hall of Fame without winning a title. But how about you? How do you see your career in terms of how important it is to actually win that title, to complete what you want to do in basketball?
It's not a guarantee that me coming to Brooklyn is, guaranteeing a title, Rachel. But I think for me, giving myself a chance is very, very important. At younger, giving myself a chance, but wanting to get paid and wanting to take care of my family was very, very important to me. Now, the stage of my career is giving myself a chance to do something that I haven't accomplished yet in this league, and that's very important to me now. And that's the situation that I'm in, and that's why I'm here in Brooklyn. I'm excited for the new opportunity. Obviously, we know it's not easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But with this roster and this coaching staff and this organization, I think we have a legit chance.
David Aldridge, The Athletic.
James, if Daryl Morey was still the GM in Houston, do you think he would still be in Houston?
I'm not sure. It's a really good question. Can't answer that.
Justin Walters, Pix 11.
Hey, James, welcome to Brooklyn. You and KD are much different players than you were, obviously, at your time at OKC. Was wondering how much can you bring from that experience to Brooklyn? And then a twofold to this is having a conversation with Kai and making sure that all 3 of you can coexist. Have you had that conversation already?
We haven't, but I think for us, it might take a little time, it might not. I think all of us are very, very smart. Like I said, are very unselfish, and we know what's at stake. So, it's a matter of coaches putting us in position and us communicating, putting ourselves through positions and spots on the floor where we can be effective and help each other out. Each game is going to be different, but I think as time goes on, since we're not really practicing, as we get a feel for throughout the course of games, that it should be a lot easier because, like I said, all of us are unselfish and we want to see the next man succeed. Not only just us 3, though. We want to see our entire team exceed and play to the best of their ability.
Howard Beck, Sports Illustrated.
Hey, James. Obviously, when you make a trade request, you can't necessarily predict where that's going to go. Could have been a lot of different places. Can you confirm that Brooklyn was the top of your list? Why the Nets? And did you consider what some of the other options might have been had this gone a different way?
Yeah, they were on top of my list, but there are a few other teams involved as well. I mean, it could have got crazy, but credit to the Houston Rockets, who were an unbelievable organization, and work with me. As bad as it might look from the outside, internally they worked with me, and they made sure I ended up here. So much credit to them, and very, very appreciative.
Brian Mahoney, Associated Press.
Hey, James, obviously everyone talks about the sacrifice that you three guys will have to make, and Sean Mark said yesterday you all said you want to do that. My question is kind of how much can you sacrifice and still be, a great player like you are? You've been the best scorer in the league. The ball's in your hands. If you're not that guy as much now, are you still, an elite great player like you are?
Of course.
Taylor Rooks, Bleacher Report.
Hey, James, welcome. I know you're obviously still getting acclimated to this team, but when you look at yourself and you look at the pieces, what parts of your game do you envision, staying the same for this to work? And what parts do you envision changing for this to work with this team?
Very good question. I think for me, my playmaking ability, we have two elite scorers that the world knows already. My job is to come out here, obviously score the basketball when needed, but my playmaking ability, whereas getting our shooter shots, getting our bigs, finishes around the rim, and making the entire team better. I think that's one aspect of my game that will excel in this offense. And as long as I'm making my teammates better, it doesn't matter about the points. Like, I think everybody knows that I can score the ball at a high clip, and that's where the sacrifice comes in at.
Bob Windrum, Nets Daily.
Hi, welcome to Brooklyn, James. How would you describe your conditioning level now at this point in the season?
Great.
Back to Greg Logan, Newsday.
James, we all know about your relationship with Kevin Durant, long-term relationship. Can you go into your relationship with Kyrie a little bit, and how critical do you think that will be, because you're both used to having the ball in your hands and needing the ball to create the way you each do?
I think, we're really good at it, at creating and creating good shots for ourselves and creating shots for our teammates. Like I said, it's all the flow. I can't predict how it's going to go. Kyrie might score, 10 possessions in a row. KD might score 10 possessions in a row. Like, they're more than capable of that, and I'm fine with that. Because we're going to be winning and it's going to be good. So, I mean, tomorrow we'll see, and it's going to be fun, and I'm excited about it.
Alex Schiffer, The Athletic.
Hey, James, welcome to Brooklyn. Obviously, you played against Steve Nash early in your career, but outside of that, did you have much of a relationship with him prior to this trade?
Not really. But just having a conversation with him today was exciting. Obviously he has that point guard mentality, one of the best to ever do it. So just to go over the offense, watching, just him explaining the offense, in positions that he sees me in, and where he can use my playmaking ability was exciting, because obviously he's done it for a very long time at a high level.
Ian Begley, SNY.
James, welcome to Brooklyn. How much, if at all, did Mike D'Antoni being here factor into where Brooklyn was kind of on your wish list entering this thing?
It was a part of it. Mike's an unbelievable coach. He's been doing it for a very, very long time, and obviously Mike is a factor. Just being comfortable with him, being comfortable with Kevin, knowing Kyrie. Just those four pieces right there made it easy. Obviously then being in Brooklyn, for me was a no-brainer.
Brian Lewis, New York Post.
Hey, James, following up on two of your answers. I mean, do you expect, I guess, to facilitate a little more for KD and Kai, score less and facilitate more for them? And secondly, I'm not questioning, your focus or your drive, but when you get questions about your defense or questions about your conditioning, do you use those to kind of self-motivate, bulletin board type stuff? Do you use that to self-motivate?
Nah, I'm already motivated. I'm as motivated as they come. I don't really pay attention to the defense and the conditioning because everybody's started the same as far as training camp and all that. So it doesn't matter to me. I don't really focus on it. I don't really pay attention to it. I know I'm one of the best basketball players that we have in this league. So, my job is to go out there and focus on what I'm supposed to be doing every single night. Now, to get back to your question, as far as facilitating, it just depends on the flow of the game. Some games I might, be a facilitator. Some nights I might got it going and, score the ball at a high clip. That's the beauty of having, being versatile and being able to do more than one thing. And same with Kevin and same with Kyrie. Just depends on, every night is going to be different.
Sam Amick, The Athletic.
James, good to see you. As far as trying to understand how you got to this decision, you talked about Coach D'Antoni and being happy that he's in Brooklyn. But I wonder when he decided to leave, he'd been in the news a lot. We knew that was a possibility, but did that play a part for you, and how did that hit you? And within that, Tillman Fertitta and what role, if any, his handling of Rockets business might have hit you?
Yeah, when Daryl and Mike left, I kind of sat back and kind of reevaluated everything. Those are two guys that I was very comfortable with in their decision making for the organization. So once they left, I had to figure out was this organization going into a rebuild stage, or were they still trying to compete at the highest level? And that was my whole thought process.
Thank you, James. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate your patience today, and we will speak to you soon.